Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, let's make a start. So this morning we're looking at implicit and inferred meaning in text. And these are our aims and outcomes. By the end of this session, you must understand what facts are, understand what opinions are, and be able to define bias. You should be able to distinguish facts from opinions and recognise bias in a text. And you could infer meaning in text and recognise euphemisms and irony. So I'm going to start with a question. What does this statement mean? His job was to pack toys into boxes. So what do you understand by that statement? So what information do you get from that statement?
Is the nature of his job?
What's his job?
Is to pack toys into boxes.
Yeah, so it's really clear, isn't it? So, so he packs toys into boxes. The meaning is explicit. It's obvious and clear. Well done. And what does this line from Peter Pan mean? Her romantic mind was like tiny boxes, one within the other. So does this line mean that her brain was actually made of small boxes?
No.
No. Or how about her mind was complex and full of different thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So with this, this line from Peter Pan, so the difference from the last line, which was explicit and very clear, the meaning here is implicit. So it's unclear and hidden. The reader, or us, we have to do a little bit of work to understand what it means. And this is called reading between the lines. And the proper name for it is inference. And it's important to remember that the reader infers the meaning, but the writer implies the meaning. So they're doing different things. And when you are doing your reading assessment, you might be asked questions like, what is implied by the following quote? Or what can you infer from this quote? And when you ask those sorts of questions, they want you to read between the lines. They want you to infer the meaning. So you'll need to look at the clues within what's written and come to your own conclusion. Okay, any questions so far?
No, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, there we go. So we're going to watch a video and hopefully this will give you some better understanding. Oh, just hold on, I need to share it.
Reading between the lines. What do we mean by fact and opinion? What is bias? What is implied meaning? At level 2 in the functional English assessment, you will be expected to know what each of these are and show examples of these in a piece of text. Let's start with the basics, fact and opinion. A fact is a truth that can be proven. It is something that can be verified and backed up with evidence. Bradley Wiggins was named Sports Personality of the Year in 2012. We can check that this is correct. It is a fact that can be verified. An opinion is based on a belief or a view, i.e. upon something other than fact. It is not based on evidence that can be verified. Business networking is great for developing business opportunities. How would you prove this statement? It seems to be a fair thing to say, but is actually based on what someone thinks rather than evidence. There may be statistics somewhere to suggest that if you network, then you create opportunities, but it's not something that can be specifically proven. When reading, either for pleasure or for work, it is important that you can read between the lines. By this, we mean that you need to read carefully and before accepting the information as the truth, decide whether it is an opinion or a fact. Which of these statements are facts and which are opinions? This cake is too fruity. This is a fruit cake. This cake is too fruity is an opinion based on the person's preference for a cake that is less fruity. This is a fruit cake is factual as the cake will contain fruit. Mallorca is a beautiful island. Mallorca is the largest Balearic island. Again, we see that one statement is an opinion and based on what the person thinks about Mallorca, while the other is a factual statement about the island of Mallorca. Spotting fact and opinion. Think to yourself, can I prove this? Look at the language. Sometimes the writer uses words that give you clues as to whether their statements are facts or opinions. Examples of words used to express facts are discovered, demonstrated, according to, confirm. Examples of words used to express opinion are claims, argues, a view, suspects. Bias is prejudice in favour of one thing, but is more extreme than opinion. People are strongly for or against something when they are demonstrating bias. It stems from what people think rather than what is fact. A good place to find bias is in newspaper articles or when you are listening to politicians. Biased writing shows a leaning towards one viewpoint. Implied meaning is also known as reading between the lines, or implicit meaning. This is where the meaning is hidden and not obvious to the reader. The reader has to work out what is really being said. Let's look at this extract from an internal office mail. Why do you think Gemma will be away? Is she on holiday, or poorly perhaps? Or is there something else going on here? Is there a problem with her work? What is interesting here is that there is nothing specific that actually says that Gemma has done something wrong. No mention is made of what has happened with her clients, but as readers we are reading between the lines to guess the implied meaning. Look for clues in bias and implied meaning. Look for opinions and feelings. Look for emotive words that show a preference for something, good or bad. For example, fantastic, superb, magnificent, or even horrific, unacceptable, atrocious. Think about the viewpoint of the writer. Do you agree or disagree with the piece? This can help you to spot where the writer's bias lies. So why do you need to know about fact, opinion, bias, and implied meaning? These skills are assessed in the Level 2 Functional English Reading exams and can be tricky ones to get right. In the workplace, it is very important to be able to tell fact from opinion because you need to be clear about information that will be used for other purposes. You need to be sure that you are using the correct facts in certain circumstances. It is easy to get things mixed up. For example, if you think about how adverts work, they often sell things by presenting opinions as facts or by being selective about the facts that they do include, and this is to try and catch their readers out. And this often works. You should know the difference between fact and opinion and also be able to tell when someone is saying one thing but hinting at another.
Any questions about the video? Okay. So can you see the slides again?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so using what we have learned in the video, what do these definitions, or let's match the definitions to the feature. So facts, which one of those definitions describes a fact?
Records or things that can be proved to be true.
Yes, excellent, well done. opinions?
Views or feelings that can't
Yeah.
be proven to
Good, well done. Bias.
an inclination
Yeah,
to
yeah,
an
that's very good.
opinion.
Yeah, well done. So the last one, implicit meaning, is what is implied or hinted at, not what is directly stated. Well done. So now we've got some examples of sentences or phrases that are either fact or opinion. So a fact, we can go away, get facts and figures to prove it, or an opinion, it's what somebody thinks. This bacon is too salty.
Opinion.
Good. Bacon is made with salt.
Fact.
Good, well done. Stockholm is the capital of Sweden.
Fact.
Good, yeah. Stockholm is a fantastic city to visit.
Opinion.
Good, well done. The company was established in 1975.
Fact.
Good, well done. The company makes top-class products.
Opinion.
Good, well done. So this one here, the company was established in 1975. If there is a year, a date, a statistic, a numerical statistic, somebody's age, that is a big clue to you that the sentence is a fact, because you could go away and check that information. Of course, somebody could lie, they could put false information in, but you can go and check it. So it's unlikely they would do that. So dates, facts, figures, ages, and so on are big clues that the sentence is a fact. So let's have a look. Look at this text. Can you distinguish between the fact and the opinion? Toffees, crisps, and sugary drinks should be in non-colourful packaging to stop children mithering their mums and dads, health campaigners say. It would make the items much less tempting and is necessary to fight the obesity crisis, they insist. Treats should be in plain packaging, health campaigners say. The Institute for Food and Public Policy also calls for the products to be taxed, their adverts banned from daytime TV when kids watch TV, and for supermarkets to fund healthy cooking classes for customers. Opponents say that plain packaging for tobacco items has failed to work so far with a minimal drop in cigarette sales. Okay, so in that text, is there anything that you have spotted that you could tell me as a fact or an opinion?
Most of the text is an opinion.
It is, you're right, yeah. Yeah. And can you spot a fact that we could go and check? Okay,
Maybe
so
the last one.
exactly, yeah, yeah. So here, the last paragraph, there's been a minimal drop in cigarette sales. So they could have given us a figure there, but they've just said a minimal drop. But we could go and check that. We could look at tobacco sales for the last, or we could look at sales from when they put plain packaging in place, made that the law, and then compare it with the 5 years previously, for example, and we could see was there a drop. So good, well done. So how writers introduce facts and opinions. So this is about recognising facts and opinions so that you are able to answer questions in the test about, is something a fact or is it just their opinion? And okay, so how we might recognise fact. There is certainty. So GP referrals have increased by 11%. So not that they might increase or they're hoped to increase, but they have. And it gives us the figure, which again, we could check. The verb to be is, the verb to be is used. Mercury is 29 million miles from the sun. So not about, approximately. It is. Research and references are quoted. So you'll find things like according to Harvard Science, according to government figures, according to the article written by such and such a scientist. Okay, so there's quotes from books or people. Events are listed from the past, so we know them to be true. So as I mentioned, dates, things like the minister resigned in April 2019. So the date something happened is given. So that's likely to be a fact. But how can we recognise opinion? So comments are preceded by I think or they think or I believe. I think student loans are a good idea. There is uncertainty and speculation. So changing sweet packet design might help. So there's not that certainty that we saw in the information about facts that it will help. It might do. Verbs are modified with should, would, could. They should change the law. This law might be changed. This law, if this law was changed, it would likely make a difference. However, this might not always be as clear as these examples, and there may be other devices that writers use to influence the reader. So we talked about bias briefly, how to spot it. So if you have a text with bias, it is likely that some of these features will be present. So a one-sided argument, the use of emotive language. I was heartbroken that the council decided to get rid of the children's play area. The council's decision was outrageous. A lack of evidence, so they're not giving any facts to back up what they are claiming. Exaggerated language, so nobody in this country agrees with this policy. So really nobody, not one person, it's exaggerated. They're just stressing their point that it's unpopular. A selective use of statistics. So they are only using part of what the statistics show. So they're just using the parts of the statistics, the information that backs up their claim. A selective use of quotations. So an article that might include a fair and balanced argument showing both sides might be used to back up just one side of the argument, just by quoting from the parts that the writer agrees with. So sarcasm. So for example, a so-called policy. So you see that in like news reports about about government changes. You might have a politician from one side talking about a new policy, saying this so-called policy, so sarcasm. And possible negative or positive overtones, so the language used very positive or very negative, depending on the writer's viewpoint. However, a balanced text will have the views of a number of people from different sides of an argument. So, any questions?
No.
Okay. So, we've got a short text here. What evidence of bias can you find? Recently, I almost wiped out a small, fast-moving group of cyclists after they had swept down Ormond Road and across my path to exit towards the bridge. They suddenly appeared from behind tall plants. Why do we have expensive designer plantings which detract from the purpose of driving and cycling safely at a busy roundabout junction? Keep it low and keep it simple. I also suggest whoever designed these attractive flower beds be given the job of upgrading our pathetic rose garden. It is an embarrassment to show visitors to our city and is, without doubt, the most unattractive rose garden in the country. Okay, so if I just go back to the previous slide. So we know this article is biased because that's what we're looking for. So these are what we are looking for examples of. So in that short text, can you see any of those features?
Yeah. The first paragraph. Wiped out a small, fast-moving group of cyclists.
Yes, we've got some sarcasm straight away, haven't we? So wiped out, it's not really very nice language for nearly having a collision with a group of cyclists, is it? So well done, yeah. So we can tell that he thinks negatively about the cyclists. Okay. So yeah, so there's no evidence given in the text here for he's talking about these expensive designer plantings stopping him, detracting him from the purpose of driving safely. But there's no evidence given. So in a balanced text, he would say, since the plantings were installed, there has been a 5% rise in accidents. But he doesn't. He just thinks that it is less safe. Okay, let's do this one first. So yeah, the entire text is one-sided. So we don't hear from the cyclists what they think. They suddenly appeared from behind tall plants. Well, maybe he was going too fast. Maybe they, maybe he should have been slower near the plants, and it wouldn't have been such a surprise to him that they appeared. Okay. And we've got exaggeration here. It's an embarrassment. It's the most unattractive rose garden in the country. It's an embarrassment. It's emotive language there. Okay. Any questions about bias?
No, but
Okay. So we have another video to watch about implicit meaning. Share that.
Meaning and inference. Implicit meaning is meaning that is suggested but is not directly stated. It is something which needs to be inferred by you as the reader. It's the writer who implies something in the text, and the reader who then infers what that meaning is. We use inference all the time in our interactions with others. We may infer opinions about people from their tone of voice,
their body language,
the clothes they wear,
how others respond to them.
We use the same inference when we read the description of characters in a novel, or we infer opinions about celebrities from what we read about them in magazines. Example.
Carl sat with his feet on the desk and his arms behind his head. He wore a crisp cotton suit and a smooth silk tie. Come in and sit down.
From this passage, you immediately infer opinions about the character from his clothes and the way he's sitting and his abrupt tone of voice. He seems wealthy, self-assured, and in control. Implicit meaning. Meaning that isn't explicit or directly stated is often used in persuasive texts. Example.
Barker & Sons are a family-owned catering business that has been established since 1923. We pride ourselves on always giving our customers an excellent service.
The implicit meaning in the text, or what we infer as a reader, is that this company is safe to do business with, even though it's not directly stated. Implicit meaning can be conveyed with humour and by what's not said.
For example,
did you enjoy the latest superhero film?
I like the end credits.
The implication is a definite no, even though it's not directly stated.
To recap, it's the writer or speaker who implies something, and the reader or listener who infers the meaning. Implicit meaning is suggested through language, character, and often through what's not said.
Okay. So from what you have heard in the video, let's look at implicit or explicit meaning. So we've got some examples, and then you need to tell me, is it implicit? So you have to use the clues to find the meaning or use your imagination. Or is it explicit? So the sentence states exactly what the writer means. So Heather runs like a duck. So let's have a look at the next one. Heather ran in a 5K race. Is the meaning, is everything there, or do you need to look at clues to find out the length of the race or who ran?
Yeah, it's not clear.
So do you know how long the race was?
No.
Heather ran in a 5K race. So it tells us, doesn't it?
5K.
Sorry, we're looking at the second one, yeah? So Heather ran in a 5K race. We've got Heather's name there. It's just telling us the distance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one is explicit. So if you think of what the question could be, it could say, how long was the race that Heather ran? And we could just say 5K, couldn't we? Okay. Heather runs like a duck.
Implicit.
Implicit, good. So we have to imagine what that looks like. So if Heather runs like a duck, I would imagine that means she's waddling, she's moving from side to side as she is running. So I have to use my imagination a little bit. Okay, the temperature won't be above 6 degrees today.
Explicit.
Good. So they've watched the weather forecast and they know what the temperature will be. You'll need a hat and coat today. So what is that person telling you about the weather? If you need why would you need a hat and coat?
To be cold.
It'd be cold. So we've got to imagine what the weather's like if we need a hat and coat. So it's implicit, that one, because we need to do a bit of work to understand it.
Yeah.
Whereas the first one, it tells us at 6 degrees is the highest temperature. We know that's going to be really cold, don't we? Okay, the company was established in 1975.
Explicit.
Good. So it tells us this is a long-established company. It's a traditional company with old-fashioned values.
Implicit.
Implicit, yes. So they are implying that it's an established company, but they're not stating, like they do in the previous example, how long this company has been going when it was established. We have to use our imagination a little bit. Okay, so we're going to read this paragraph and infer the meaning. At a recent invitation-only lunch, Minister Emma Jones was hijacked by members of the West Coast group who made their opposition to the rail line very clear. The government may have changed, but ministers are still listening to the men in suits and ignoring the public who are concerned about the safety, social, and environmental consequences. Okay, so what do you think can be inferred by the following terms? So, an invitation-only lunch. So, what's that telling us about this event? So, was it open to could anybody just turn up?
No.
No. So it's telling us that this was more of a private, exclusive event with only particular people invited. Okay. So the meeting was hijacked by members of the West Coast group. So what can we infer from that? The meeting was hijacked. So do you think these people were invited?
No.
No. So the use of that word hijack, they were uninvited, but they made their opinions clear. Okay. Listening to the men in suits. So who are the government listening to? What do you imply by men in suits? What sort of people are they listening to?
The people who hijacked the meeting.
So not the people at the meeting. What sort of job would you have if you wear a suit? What sort of people wear suits?
Oh, the government workers, like
Yeah, so the government workers, but also business people. So it says the ministers are still listening to the men in suits and ignoring the public. So the implication now is that the government are listening to the businesses and not the general public. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we can just look here, just get rid of those boxes. So it's an exclusive event, as we said. So they were unwanted, so they weren't invited. And yeah, the business people. Okay, so the same paragraph, but it's extended. At a recent invitation-only launch, Minister Emma Jones was hijacked by members of the West Coast group, who made their opposition to the rail line very clear. The government may have changed, but the ministers are still listening to the men in suits and ignoring the public who are concerned about the safety, social and environmental consequences. WCG, which is the West Coast Group, coordinator Liam Parry said, "The day government and business stop scratching each other's backs, there will be pigs flying in the sky." So we've got some additional features here. So again, ways of recognizing a hidden meaning. So irony or sarcasm. So if you see that the writer is saying the opposite or clearly not meaning what they say, then it's likely that it's biased here. And if we look at an example of that, we can see there will be pigs flying in the sky. So it's a saying, isn't it, that means that it's never going to happen, because we know that pigs will never fly in the sky. So saying it'll happen when pigs fly means that it's never going to happen. So Liam Parry is saying that the government and businesses will never stop scratching each other's backs. Okay, so we are having to do lots of work there to understand his meaning. So scratching each other's backs. Do you know that phrase?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're helping each other out. If you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So if you help me out with this contract for the West Coast rail line, then we'll give money to your political party. So, for example, so obviously our brains work extremely quickly, and all this work our brains are doing to link the clues and understand is done very, very quickly. But we are having to do that. The meaning is not explicit. We have to infer it. And yes, so euphemisms, we can see an example there, men in suits. So rather than the ministers are still listening to big business or the people with the money, it says men in suits. So often you would find those in speech marks or maybe italics. Okay, so any questions about inference?
No, I was going to ask
before
about what's the difference between fact and explicit?
Between what and explicit?
Yeah, between fact and explicit, because some of the sentence they quite similar. Yeah,
so a fact could be used in a paragraph that has explicit meaning. So a fact would be part of the text. So the government has spent £63 million on this project. So the fact is they've spent £63 million, and the meaning is explicit, describes that we know that is true. Okay, so facts are used, let me how to phrase this. When a fact is used, the meaning is explicit. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so let's check your understanding. So what is a fact? The way someone feels, a statistic, non-fiction, or something that can be proven to be true.
D.
Good, well done. What is an opinion? Feelings or views that can't be proved to be true. Emotive language, views that can be proved to be true, or evidence given in court.
A.
Good, well done. What is bias? A balanced view, impartiality, a way of thinking about facts and opinions, a strongly held one-sided opinion.
D.
Well done. What is another term for using inference? Reading someone like a book, reaching a conclusion, reading between the lines, putting two and two together.
Reading between the lines.
Well done. Yeah. Okay, we've come to the end of our session today. Do you have any questions?
No, thank you. Am I the only one?
Yes, today you got one-to-one tuition today. Do you have any questions about any other parts of it while we've got a few minutes? Or
No, thank
no,
you.
you're okay. All right then. Okay, well done. Hopefully I will see you in the morning for our writing session.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good day,
You
Esperance.
too.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.